There is a state in the United States where street signs are in Spanish, where radio stations broadcast corridos, and where children learn English as a second language. A state where chili isn't just a condiment, it's a declaration of identity. Few people know it, but this corner of the country has more than 49% Hispanic population and a history as old as the continent itself. This place isn't Texas or California, it's called New Mexico, and its story is as extraordinary as it is unknown. Unlike other states where the Latino population grew due to recent immigration, in New Mexico, many Latinos didn't cross the border crossed them. Most Hispanic families in this state aren't recent migrants. They are direct descendants of explorers, settlers, and Spanish soldiers who arrived here in the late 16th century. The story begins in 1598 when Juan de Oñate led an expedition from Zacatecas northward, seeking new lands for the Spanish crown. It was a long, arduous, and dangerous journey that ended with the founding of the first permanent European settlement in what is now the United States. For nearly 250 years, New Mexico was part of the Spanish Empire. Cities were built with colonial layouts, churches were constructed from adobe and wood, and Spanish became the dominant language. After Mexico gained independence from Spain in 1821, the territory briefly came under Mexican rule. But after the war between Mexico and the United States, it was officially ceded to the U.S. under the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo in 1848. Despite this, Hispanic culture never disappeared. In fact, it became so deeply rooted in the state's identity that it remains dominant to this day. In the capital city of Santa Fe, government buildings preserve their original adobe facades. Traffic signs are bilingual. Public schools teach New Mexican history from a bicultural perspective, where surnames like Martinez, Herrera, and Chavez are not a minority, they're the norm. Spanish isn't just spoken in homes and markets but also in courthouses, churches, police stations, and media outlets. Cuisine is one of the most iconic elements of the cultural fusion that defines New Mexico. The star ingredient is chili, in both red and green varieties, which is such a vital part of local identity that diners are often asked, red, green, or Christmas, the latter for those who want both. Dishes have names like carne adobada, enchiladas suizas, pozole, or calabacitas con elote, often prepared using recipes handed down through generations for over 300 years. Dia de los Muertos is not a trendy import, it's a living practice. Altars fill homes with photos of grandparents and great-grandparents, surrounded by candles, sugar skulls, homemade bread, and even cigars or tequila bottles the deceased once enjoyed. Patron saint festivals are celebrated across towns, honoring Catholic figures like San Isidro, Santa Ana, or Our Lady of Guadalupe. These festivals include parades, traditional dances, masses, band music, and even rodeos. But what truly sets New Mexico apart is that Hispanic identity here isn't lived in resistance, as it often is elsewhere in the US, but at the center of public life. There's no need to hide an accent, no need to translate thoughts. Children grow up knowing their last names carry legacy, that their grandparents didn't come chasing the American dream, they were already here before that dream existed. Music in New Mexico is also distinctive. It draws influence from northern Mexico but incorporates unique local sounds. There are acoustic ballads, European-influenced violins, and lyrics that speak of the countryside, family, and the passage of time. Many songs are passed down orally and form part of the state's intangible heritage. Local radio plays norteño, Catholic hymns, boleros, and corridos composed by artists who've never left their home counties. And it's not all nostalgia or tradition. New Mexico has been fertile ground for Chicano art and literature. Iconic figures like Rudolfo Anaya, author of Bless Me, Ultima, were born here. His works blend magical realism with the struggle to preserve cultural identity in a homogenizing world. The state has seen the rise of muralism, community filmmaking, and language activism movements that aim to keep Spanish alive, not as a museum piece, but as a living language. However, not everything is idyllic. New Mexico faces serious challenges. It has one of the highest child poverty rates in the country. School dropout rates are elevated, particularly in rural areas. Access to healthcare is limited in many small communities. And while there's deep cultural pride, there's also ongoing tension between modernization and the preservation of heritage. In the streets of Albuquerque, the state's largest city, you can feel this duality. There are top-tier universities, contemporary art museums, high-tech hospitals, and startups. But there are also Sunday flea markets selling handmade crafts, medicinal herbs, and Vicente Fernandez CDs. There are modern cafes serving espresso with corn cake, and bakeries still using 18th century recipes for pan dulce. Climate also plays a key role in the state's identity. The New Mexican desert has a serene beauty. Sunrises paint the mountains in red hues, and the nights are filled with stars. In towns like Taos, the silence is so deep you can hear the earth crackle. This connection to nature is also reflected in spiritual beliefs, where Catholicism blends with indigenous elements and a near-sacred reverence for the land. There's something in New Mexico's air that invites reflection. Maybe that's why so many artists, poets, monks, and spiritual seekers have made it their home. Time seems to move slower here. Stories aren't just read, they're spoken aloud in plazas, porches, and kitchens. And if there's one thing that defines this state, it's memory, a living, collective, and shared memory. Not a past kept in textbooks or exhibits, but a past that is sung, cooked, celebrated, and defended. Because for New Mexicans, the future cannot be built without honoring the depth of their roots. In a country where being Latino often means having to explain, translate, or justify oneself, in New Mexico, the opposite happens. Being Latino here is simply being. No need for permission, no need for apologies. Here, Hispanic history is not a footnote, it's the headline. And perhaps that's why, despite the difficulties, younger generations continue to return. Some come back after years of living in cities like Los Angeles, Chicago, or New York. Others never left, and they all agree on one thing. There's something different in the air here. Life feels calmer, more rooted, more real. New Mexico is a different kind of state. Not because it has more mountains, deserts, or old churches. It's different because it reminds us that not everything in the US is measured in English, skyscrapers, or fast food. Some places are measured in stories, tamales, songs, and memory. At Usanalyses, we believe that understanding these places is essential. Because understanding the United States also means looking to its margins, listening to those who don't always have a microphone, and recognizing that sometimes the deepest stories aren't found in history books. They live in the heart of a people who never stopped speaking Spanish. If this video helped you see New Mexico in a new light, subscribe. And if you'd like us to explore other states where the Latino community has left its mark, let us know in the comments. Because here at Usanalyses, we explain the United States, no sugarcoating.